Good afternoon. Today it's 5:32 p.m. April 30th, 2026. First off, I want to mention on one of my posted videos, one of the commenters said, "Oh, your presentation is so poor," yawn, meaning that this particular commenter is used to fast cars, dancing pretty girls with 20% clothed, or cartoons. And I suggest somebody like that watch some cartoons or some videos with AI-generated pictures that don't have much to do with the video, but are constantly flashing and mesmerizing the people with lower concentration levels. And they tend to watch those videos that are flashing at them. Their vibration level. But that's actually what this video is about. It's about cycles, about vibrations in your history. The bell. Yeah, I'm doing this video because an AI or somebody posted a video on the German bell from back during World War II. And I was kind of listening to it in the background, and there was a word mentioned in it that made me jump up. Chromos. And since I'm one of the few people who can give you some details on this, not that aren't many others, but they can't speak due to signing non-disclosure agreements. And then those who are on the German side rather than the corporate side, they can't say much either because of protocol that we're supposed to keep our mouth shut about this. But I'm aware of some protocols that in a sense were missed and kind of got our time track or our timeline off track. As we move on through the years, through the decades, through the centuries, history and actions are kind of like a tree of life. And the main trunk is the route that we're supposed to go. And we're constantly having possibilities going off, just like the limbs on a tree. Well, back a number of decades ago, there was, I almost don't want to use the word mistake because it wasn't a mistake, but let's just say there was a sidetrack made where most of the people involved thought that they were going down the main line or the main tree trunk. And I caught this mistake or this off-tracking spur, and I'm aware of that. So if I'm called onto the carpet in the future about this, I can bring that up and say, well, this is where we got sidetracked, and that's why certain things didn't occur according to the game plan, shall we say. Anyway, those of you who have spent much research on the German bell will have noticed that the Kecksburg incident in Pennsylvania years ago, decades ago, where a UFO was retrieved and it was reported to look like a bell. And they put it on a big flatbed military truck or a contracted civilian truck and hauled it out of there. And many of you guessed that this may have been one or the only, I don't know how many were built, of the German bells from the early 1940s. Well, this video, I'll give a link to it, talks about this, and it, of course, makes a lot of errors. One, that this was all underground. Now, there may have been a second one underground, but I know of the one that was up close to towards Poland, but in Germany, and the remains of it stood for decades after the war. And it was, I think it was eight-sided, and it was a big concrete structure that stood maybe 20 or 30 feet, 40, 50 feet in the air, and it was about 100 feet across, or 200 feet, something like that. It had a strong cement base, and it was all reinforced, super strong concrete out there in the forest. And like I say, it was there for decades after the war. I don't know. I doubt that it's still there now. But anyway, there's videos and still material on it. And this is where the bell was chained to. Now, the bell was basically a ship, and it vibrated as bells do. It was, since it was bell-shaped and made out of a certain alloy, it vibrated much easier than the vibrations that I create here, or in one of the more popular UFO saucer-shaped craft that are more popularly seen. And incidentally, these, of course, function a lot better than the bell. And they are the North and South Pole, with the equator being an insulation between the North and South Pole. Because understand, all ships are basically like the Earth. There's the lines of force that go out of the North Pole and go into the South Pole. And you have a combination of the atmosphere and then the layers of Earth. And that's what you have in a saucer. You have a number of layers of skin that have to be in the right order and in the right materials and the right proportions to generate the north field. And basically, this operates kind of like one giant capacitor or a battery, just as the Earth does, just as the moon does. The moon was put into orbit by, if you understand the theories in the electric universe, it was put into place electronically, pulled. It wasn't pulled physically there, it was put there by north and south pole activations so it would balance the Earth and maintain a balance. So the two work together. The Earth acts as one big generator or magnet, just like a cigar-shaped UFO operates. But this is operating in the same sense as a magnet. Anyway, the bell vibrated just as these vibrate at a certain frequency. And when you operated or functionated that in relationship to the Earth, it moves around the Earth just as a spark would around a generator, an electric engine, electric motor. And by manipulating the charge on the UFO, which is an independent object, isolated from Earth, it is still manipulated and functionated within the gravity field, so it operates as a functional gravity object. Well, the bell did the same thing, but not as well. Now, they get it all wrong also in the video that they were trying to make it like the bell was the one that was manipulating space and time and causing entities to appear and disappear, or even people working at the facilities to disappear temporarily or forever. But no, it was the chromos. There's where they made a big mistake, whoever did this video. The bell operated there as it was based on Earth in that octagon shaped area with the chains holding it. They would chain it down or chain it, and then it would move around and act like a functioning gravity object. But it was the chromos. It was a north and south big stone chromos. There was two of them. And those are what are important. Those are what caused, they were kind of like a portal. And you could take these chromos and put them at a junction of two ley lines, or two, what the Asians call dragon paths. And basically, under the right conditions, you could create a portal, kind of like a star gate. And a ship from a higher dimension could actually kind of plug in to where those chromos were set up. That's it in a nutshell. So it was the chromos that were really creating all these, well, not all of them, but most of the effects that were reported by this young lady in her journal, and that the video concentrates on. So those are the major mistakes right there. And those who have researched enough of this on their own will recognize right away that what I'm talking about makes sense. It makes even more sense. Now, understand there was a difference between the Nazis and the German army and the German Navy. There was actually, those were different entities. Most of the German Nazis came to the United States or came to Maryland and were farmed out after the war under Project Paperclip. But the German Navy and German Army, a lot of them went into the South Pole and established bases in Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Antarctica, and continued there. Now these aren't accurate, but there's different places around the earth that there's great hollows. Supposedly there's one up under Mount Shasta in northern California. There's ones in South America and Central America, and well, they're all over. There's some over in Eastern Europe, up in Tibet, Romania. I'm sure there's some in Russia and Falkland Islands, Georgian Islands, and of course Antarctica, and up in Siberia. And perhaps the Grand Canyon. Small ones over near where the Ohio River joins the Mississippi. These were parts of the mound builders throughout that area. Yep, there's a lot of history that's buried and forgotten, and it's unbelievable how some recent history can get so twisted as regarding the bell, the clock. So, anyway, that's enough for your minds to, I don't want you to become constipated up here by receiving too much facts in one time. So, bye now, and get out of that corporate contract, because that's what's holding you down. You are part of the beast when you're contracted in with the corporation, where you agree to pay for the debts and the sins of those Epstein types and their friends. Bye now.